So I'm Cajun. I'm doing a talk about identity. Normally when we do identity in seminars, it's very personal. It's a very personal thing. So we usually go individually to all the different guys that come in, all the clients, and sort of go over very sort of personal topics about their identity, how they see themselves, and what they do, and sort of how they define themselves. Obviously, I can't do that in a big seminar with all these guys. It would take too long. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to actually do a talk about identity that is sort of a little bit different than what we normally do. It's going to be, at least I hope it is, inspirational, and hope you guys, I hope you guys get pumped for tonight for this for this stuff. But I didn't want to. I basically just want to have a kind of a conversation with you guys. Essentially, is what I wanted to do. I don't have any slides, and I'm not sure how long this will run, but hopefully we'll have time at the end for you guys if you guys have questions. But essentially, what I'm going to do is, all the instructors at Love Systems, we all have a similar story, right? It's all the same story that you guys are probably going through right now. We all came from a place where we weren't very good with women, and we decided to change that. And through that process, we became who we are, right? And it's interesting because all the instructors at Love Systems, like I said, we have the exact same story. And the one thing we all have in common is that we understood that where we were and where we needed to be, we need to change things about ourselves. And that's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to do. You live your life the same way, and at one day you decide, you know what? I have to change things. This isn't good. I'm not happy with who I am right now. There's a certain person that I want to be that I'm not there yet, and I want to be that guy. So how do I do that? Getting good to the women is a part of that. It's why you guys are all here. But it's so much bigger than that. When you sort of realize what it means to be confident and being able to do the things you never thought was possible with women, you start to realize that those things are the same things that you encounter with anything you want to get good at. Not just women, but just life in general. And so that's sort of the talk that I want to have with you guys today, is how to become that person that you all want to be. It's why you're here. So what is your identity? How do we define ourselves? How we define ourselves is based on our experience. So how we see ourselves are based on our previous experience. And the experiences we have are based on the decisions that we make. So you have to sort of, in order to get good at this stuff, there's always that sort of moment when you're like, I could do this, I could make this decision or I could not. And a lot of the time it's dealing with fear, that fear that we get about that decision, the consequences that will come. And that's sort of what life is, right? I mean, life is a series of situations life is essentially a series of difficult situations you have to get through. That's what life is. It comes down to it. And so our identity is based on the decisions that we've made in the past. But it's also sort of based on not only the decisions, but the decisions we bring into ourselves, I guess is an easy way of saying it. I don't want to get ahead of myself here, so hold on here. I'm going to go. Okay, so this is what I was going to get to next. All right, the man's side. So, whenever you have a situation that happens where it's like, you think to yourself, you know what, I wish I would have did that. I wish I would have said that in that situation. I wish that, you play back all these scenarios in your head of things that could have happened or things that you had done and the way that you wish they played out, right? There's always that man inside of us that wants to come out. It's that person that we wish that we were. He's inside all of us. We all have that guy, and he's always there in the background telling you when you did something embarrassing or when you did something where you wish you would have did something differently, like I said earlier. There's always that voice that says, I wish I would have did that. I wish things would have worked out like this. But a lot of the time we're too scared to be that guy, because a lot of the time being that guy means we have to face our fears. We have to face our insecurities about ourselves. And it's tough. It's really hard. I used to be, it may not seem like it to you guys, but I used to be a really shy guy. I was always a really, really shy person. Even today, like coming up on stage with you guys, it's hard for me, even now, even though I do it for a living, I've been doing it for a long time, I still get that anxiety and stuff, because it's not something that, it's something I've had to work at and deal with. But whenever, for me, my identity at this point, in terms of what the decisions that I make, I'm always trying to be that guy. I want to make the decisions to the guy that I see myself as, that really confident dude. And those of you that had very strong sort of fathers growing up, I think a lot of that comes from that, but it doesn't necessarily. I have a lot of heroes that aren't necessarily my father. I have I always wanted to be Errol Flynn when I was a kid, and I didn't really know the extent of what Errol Flynn was like, which is kind of ironic now considering what I do. But I used to love Robin Hood and shit when I was a kid, and I used to watch that, and I'm like, I want to be like him. I want to be like fucking Robin Hood. I want to, be this, saving people and, gets the girl and all this sorts of stuff. And so I've always had these heroes in my head of people that I'd like to be like. And whenever I'm faced with a situation now where I think the person that I want to be would do this, then I always do it. I always make that decision now. And it's fucking hard sometimes. I get in really bad situations. But it's okay, because I'm sort of, I put you must train to become him. Like I said, we're always a product of our experiences. We can't just change in an instant. It doesn't happen like that. We can't all of a sudden one day become a pickup artist or, good at women. All of you guys are here for this weekend. You're not going to be that guy at the end of the weekend, but you're going to start it. And you're going to work on these experiences that will one day lead you to become that person. I think I'm getting pretty close now, but the thing that I want you guys to realize is that you're training for your future self is what you're doing. The guy that you want to be, you will be that guy one day, but you have to go through all the experiences in order to learn, in order to validate that to yourself, to become him. So you guys should all take an active role in training to become the person that you want to be, starting this weekend. It's why you're all here, right? You guys all want to be the guy that is not scared to talk to girls, the guy that can go into a room and pick any girl he wants. That's a good goal, and you will get there. All the instructors for lessons, we've all gotten to that path, and we all know how we got there. And this is sort of it. We always have to make these decisions that are fucking hard. And it's weird because I get guys that are in the military and stuff, and they say, you know what? I'd rather be in my tent with mortar shells landing around me. I'm less nervous there than I am having to go approach a girl in a bar, right? That's fucked up. Like, that's a fucked up, thing to think about. But it's true. And it's not like that guy that said that. I mean, I've heard it many times, not that specifically, but these same sort of ideas of fear, like, that's a common thing. And I think probably a lot of you can agree with that, right? It's fucking scary to talk to girls sometimes, especially when you're not feeling it and stuff. But it is a huge fear. So for a lot of this, it's dealing with fear is basically what it is. And the thing, I'm not going to say that because I'm going to end with that, but this is one of those things that, once you get good at this, and you realize that it's just dealing with fear, you start applying it in the rest of your life. You become that guy because you realize what it is. You realize how to deal with that fear, that feeling inside where, the person in your head is saying, do this, do this, do this. But you're saying, no, I don't. This is scary. I don't want to do this. I don't feel good. Learning that reaction to fight against that natural instinct, or sort of that instinct that says don't do it. Learning to deal with that. That's how you become good, right? It's not having the best opener or having all these sorts of lines and stuff. It's dealing with that fear and being okay with that and getting good at that. And that's what sort of you have to let that man inside you come out. That person we all want to be. You have to start listening to him. And you have to start making the decisions that he wants you to make. And it's going to be tough, I'm telling you. You're going to go through some shit, but it's okay, like I said, because it's a process. You learn, and you get stronger, and you get better. And eventually one day, you wake up, and you're pretty close to who you are. And it's always an ongoing process, too. When I first started this, 4 or 5 years ago, I started doing it, and I'm like, holy fuck, I'm good. Even before I started Love Systems, I'm like, yeah, I'm good with women. And then 6 months later, I look back at myself, and I'm thinking, I wasn't fucking good. I was terrible. But now I'm good. And then 6 months after that, no, I wasn't. Now I'm good. And it always goes on like that because you're always learning. You're always becoming a little bit closer to that person that you want to be. One of the things with identity that makes people attractive, I think, is being unique. And more or less, being unique. You have to set yourself apart from everybody else. I don't mean sort of, standing out or, like doing peacocking and stuff like that. I mean being a real person, being a genuine, real person. And what I mean by that is, I live in Vancouver now, but I used to live in Toronto. And in my neighborhood in Toronto that I lived in, Little Portugal, anytime I ever met someone on a regular basis, so like a bank teller or a grocery store clerk or, anyone that you see more than once, the person who works at a convenience store, I'd always make sure to have a real, genuine interaction with them. You know how many people go by, like in a grocery store? If you work in a grocery store or a bank, how many people go by that they just play that role of the customer, And they're just like, okay, beep, 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 okay, here's my $10, beep, 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 and then, okay, they're gone, and, whatever, and then the next person comes. It's very monotonous. I always make a point to become a real person to them, not just another customer, but I make a point to have a conversation with them. Even if something, it doesn't have to be anything special, maybe about the weather or about just anything. And I try to like make their day better and let them know that I'm a real person, right? I'm not just some guy going through. This is one of those things that it's how you sort of develop a habit for this stuff. And, the woman of your dreams, you're probably not going to meet in a bar. She's probably going to be a girl that walks by you or is standing in line at the bank or is in the grocery store, right? And the way you develop this identity and this personality that makes it easy to talk to that person is by having genuine conversations with every single person that you meet in your life. Even ones that have no meaning outside of what you're paying your bills or getting your groceries. This is how you become a sort of an interesting, real person. And it has benefits that go just outside of developing a habit of talking to people. It has much farther-reaching, there's much better things you can get from it. When I lived in Toronto, and I do this in Vancouver now, but I'm still sort of getting to know the people where I live, I could go in across the street to the convenience store where Mike worked that owned it. And he knows who I am now because I go in, maybe once a week or something. But because every time I see him, I have a real conversation with him, it's almost like we're friends. And I used to get deals all the time on things that fell off trucks, which if you guys have been to some sort of, I imagine it's the same way in every major city. You find the hookup guys, and they can give you sweet deals on shit if you're friends with them and stuff, right? So that's what it was in Toronto. I had this guy, and I get a good deal on like Crest White Strips or like whatever the hell it was at the time. He'd give me a sweet deal on it, and it's because I made a genuine effort to become a real person with him. Mibrek, who worked at the falafel place by my house, she's like a 55-year-old lady, not someone you'd think you should, try to game or anything like that. But I did anyway because I wanted her to think that I'm a real person, and I wanted to know who I was, and I wanted to, be friendly with her because I'm going to see her more than once because she owns the falafel place by my house. So she got so excited every time that I walked in, because she just knows, like, so many people go through that place that she doesn't even know, that she doesn't even get to meet, or get to find out who they are, that when I came in, it was like a friend coming in. And she ended up trying to set me up with her daughter. She said, Derek, you're so nice, you're so polite, and you're such a good guy. My daughter's single, and she's about your age. You have to call her. Please call her. I tell her about you all the time, and you should call her. And I called her, and we ended up dating for a little bit. But there's things you get from this that go just outside of making this a habit of who you are. You get to be this person that you're enriching other people's lives, and they're enriching your life. They're making your life better. That's a good feeling. That's a really good feeling. And it's something that I do all the time now. Whenever whenever I meet somebody, especially in a situation where they're always expecting me to play a certain role, like I'm a client or like I'm a customer or something like that, I'm always going to do something to let them know that I'm not going to follow that role. I'm going to be a real person, right? I'm going to make a joke with them or have a conversation or do something to just exhibit some personality and get the real person back from them. And it's really interesting when you do this because you find people will completely open up and you make their day. I used to work in a call center, and I used to call people all day long. And you know what the best calls were? The best calls were when people would fuck with me on the phone. Because those are the ones that would stand out, right? Those are the ones that you're like, oh my God, you talk to your coworkers and you're like, this guy was hilarious, he did all this stuff. And that's what I do now. I do that all the time. People call me, call center people, I'll just fuck with them on the phone. And they love it because their job is so fucking boring that this is like, I'm the most interesting thing that's happened to them all day long. And you make them feel good, and you can sense that over the phone. And it makes you feel, you become, it affects you. So this is something you guys need to start doing this like today. Like you need to start being this guy that is genuine and real and can connect with people on a personal level, even if you'll maybe never even see them again. It doesn't matter. You have to be a real person. It's good. Whenever I'd go on dates and stuff, I'd usually bring girls back to my neighborhood, usually in the beginning of the date. And I'd do something like go into the store to get a pack of gum or just do something as an excuse to go and show her, how many connections I have or whatever. And I'd go in and, Mike would be like, oh, Derek, how you doing, man? Oh, nice to see you again. Or Mibrek or whatever. And the girl that I'm with would be like, who is this guy? Does he know like everybody? Of course, I'd take her, the date that I go to, would go to a place where I made friends with all the bartenders and all the people that work there. And they just, when I invite girls into my life, all they see and what they think of as my identity is this is a guy that fucking knows everybody. And they all love him. They're all very, really positive with him and stuff. And they have like really good conversations. And, there's almost like there's love there. So who is this guy? Why is he like this? How did he become like this? You have to be that guy. Mise en scène. Mise en scène, I went to film school. If anyone of you guys took film studies, you probably recognize that term. Mise en scène refers to, in film, everything in a frame like when you shoot a scene, everything in a frame that isn't the actors in that frame, right? It refers to sort of the things, what the things in the frame say about the scene or the characters. Some directors use this more than others. Off the top of my head, Wes Anderson is really good at this. If you guys seen any of his films, The Royal Tenenbaums, Life Aquatic, he pays very, very careful attention to mise en scène. So what happens is, in a movie like The Royal Tenenbaums, you have all these characters that are very, very well-developed characters. But in the course of only, I don't know how long it is, an hour and a half, 2 hours, you couldn't really learn too much about their characters, at least as much as everything that is about them. So in things like that movie, their rooms, for instance, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie The Royal Tenenbaums, but they all live in this big house. And their rooms, Wes Anderson paid very careful attention to every single thing that was in their room. It all had sort of a story and a meaning behind it that helped them. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because, like I put here, what do your things say about you? Not only what you bring in terms of first impression, like what you're wearing and your clothes and your props, as you call them, but even outside of that, everything in your life that you own that is attached to you, what does it say about you? I always make sure that whenever I get involved in something that will make a good story or that has something that I'd like to remember, I always bring a piece of that, a physical piece of it that I can have that can be anchored to that story. And sometimes it's very simple. Sometimes I went surfing in Ireland me and Ten Man, one of the other instructors, went around the coast of Ireland and surfed and lived in these small little villages for a while. And I just took a rock from the beach that I was surfing at. And that's sort of my anchor that I have in my room. So, and I'll get into this in a second, but always try to, whenever you find yourself in these situations, always try to take something back from that you can anchor to your identity. And put yourself in these situations. Anytime I think a story can come from something that I like, an opportunity that I have, I'll always do it. And sometimes I make bad decisions, but if I think a good story can come from this, then I'll always do it, because that's something that I can anchor towards my identity, especially stories that involve things that really define who I am, right? I'm adventurous, and I kind of do things on a whim. And sometimes I make bad decisions, but it always works out in the end. I have this way of always smoothing things over, and it always works out. I went to Australia, and I got jumped in an alley, and they beat me with metal bars and almost killed me and cracked my skull open, and I have titanium plates in my head. It's a really sad story, but the way that I see it in my head and the way that I tell people, it's a story that almost communicates my identity. I went to Australia, and I took the long way home, and I wrote a big post about this. I'm not going to get into too detail, but I'm the type of guy that when I got in that situation, I was thinking, oh shit, I have no money. These guys are going to, because they're like, give us your fucking money, right? I'm thinking, I have no money. What am I going to do? I'm in an alleyway. I run back, there's like 10 flights of stairs that I could fall down and kill myself if they chase me. And there's 3 guys in front of me. I have no money. I can't barter with them. What the hell am I going to do? My choices are I can curl up in a ball and hope that I don't die. Or I was thinking, in that moment, what would my dad do? Because he's, for me, is a big hero of mine. I was thinking, what would my dad do? I was like, well, my dad would probably try to fight them. Even though that's so stupid, they may have a gun, I don't know. And so that's what I did. I tried to fight them, because I'm thinking, I have no way out of this. I can either take a beating, or I can maybe hurt them bad enough that even if I get beat up, maybe they'll think twice about doing it next time. Maybe I can help other people. And so I did, and I didn't do too bad, actually, but I did get the shit kicked out of me, and my head got busted open. But I was laughing all the way to the hospital. If you could ask Ten Magnet and stuff, when I came in with somebody in the hotel room, the first thing I said was, don't worry, guys, don't worry. I was my eye was all busted, and I was all cut up. And I was like, don't worry, I got him. Because that's just like, whenever something like that happens to me, I'm always thinking, how can I see this in a positive light? How can I look at this and learn something from this and make this part of who I am? And so that's what I did. And I ended up, because of that, having to stay in Australia for an extra 3 weeks, and we ended up cruising all around and surfing, and it was a good thing. But like I said, that man inside told me what to do. I don't recommend you guys doing, I don't want to say, go and get in fights and shit. Don't do that. But always do the thing that the person that you see yourself as would do. The thing, it's funny, I live in this big house with about 11 people. It's this big house in Vancouver by the beach. I don't have much control over the things that are in the house in terms of the furniture and things on the wall and stuff like that. So my mise en scène in my house, I can't really do much. But my room that's where I can use all those things, because that's what I have complete control over. And it's funny because the more that girls get to know me, the more interesting they find me, because they see all these things that sort of flower out as they get to know me. Things I don't really talk about, but they see examples of in my mise en scène. You know, I have all these tattoos and stuff, and they all mean something, and if they ask, there's always a meaning that's associated with my character that I explain. But when they really get to know me is when they come to my room, because my room literally defines who I am. In my room, there's my 2 favorite movies of all time, which are kind of obscure because I'm a film student. There's posters of those on the walls. I have the ticket that I got when I was in Amsterdam. I got arrested for smoking weed. The one place in the world where it's legal, I got arrested for smoking weed. For those of you that are curious, it's because I was smoking out of a pipe outside. You can't smoke out of a pipe outside, apparently, because they think it's crack. Anyway, so I have that. I have, like I said, The Rock from Ireland. I have, from Vegas, when I came here a couple years ago in the first Super Conference, we went to the gun store, and I shot a Thompson machine gun, which was a standard issue machine gun in World War II for the Canadian American Forces. I wanted to know what it felt like to shoot that gun. I wanted to know what it felt like to have to hold that gun and shoot it. And so I shot it. So I have the poster print of the person that I shot in my room. And all these things have stories that kind of communicate a little bit about who I am. But the best thing in my room is none of that. The best thing in my room is I have a walk-in closet. And when you come into my walk-in closet, there's that poster in there. There's some newspaper articles that are kind of filed away, that the people that did stories about me, and all these sorts of things that are really cool. But the funniest thing is that I have this safe in the middle of my walk-in closet. It's right in the middle. As soon as you walk in, you see it. It's a safe. And it has a key in it. And I kind of, when I give tours of my room to women and stuff, I show them all the stuff in my room, but I never talk about the safe. And it's literally right in the middle, like the first thing they see when they come in. But I never talk about it. And so I show them everything in there, but I never talk about the safe. And then usually at one point I say, listen, I got to go take a piss, but make yourself at home, and I'll be back in a minute. So then I leave, and they always look in the safe. They always do. Because I show them everything else, but there's a safe right in the middle with the key in it, and they're curious, right? So they always open the safe. You know what's in the safe? Here's what's in the safe. When you open the safe, first thing you see, there's a gun. It's actually a BB gun, but the reason I got it is because it looks exactly like a real gun. It's like metal, it has the weight, it cocks. The only way you can know it's a BB gun if you look at the barrel and see there's a smaller barrel, right? So there's a gun. There's a big fucking hunting knife next to that. Next to that, there's an eye patch. Next to that, there's a roll of several different currencies, American, European, yeah, all these different currencies. And actually what it is, if any of you guys are Canadian, you'll know what this is. Canadian Tire Money, which is it's like a hardware store in Canada. They give you like Canadian Tire Money. You can only use it here. And everyone in Canada has like drawers full of this shit, right? So what I do is I make huge rolls of Canadian Tire Money. Then I put like one American bill on the top, or like one European bill, so it looks like I have all these different currencies. So I have that. There's a fake passport. There's a with like an eye patch on it. And there's a dossier with all these names and like checks off and stuff. So girls are looking in there like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, what the fuck is this shit, right? Why is he has like a gun and a knife, like he has a secret identity and stuff? Who the fuck is this guy? So I come back in the room, and it reads all over their face. As soon as I walk in the room, it's like I know they look in the safe, right? And I'm always kind of like, you didn't look in the safe, did you? And they're like, I kind of did. And I like close the door, and I give them a look, and they're like, oh fuck. But then I was like, I'm just fucking with you. No, it's all fake. I just said that to fuck with you. Because that's like who I am, right? Part of who I am is just fucking with people. And that's what I like to do. So when women come to my room, that's what they learn about me. That I communicate that, like, here's this guy that, he's a cool guy. He has all this stuff, and he has all these things going for him. But at the end of the day, he just likes fucking with people, And he likes maybe even possibly scaring people just to fuck with them, right? So what are your things that you have say about you? I always think, I'm not very good at giving, fashion advice. I think there was a breakout room, yesterday where, I think it was the Don did it. And, obviously, let's listen to those guys and stuff for fashion advice. But I always say, anything that you identify with, you think, I always have this image in my head of who I want to be. And then when I see that person, I don't only see who they are, but I see sort of, what they would wear. And every time I find something that, maybe in a store or something, I'm like, oh, you know what, that's something that I would fucking wear. That's something that I see myself as wearing. I'll never go all out and do it all at once, so I'm not going to wear everything. I mean, I do now, but when I first starting, I never would always wear all these things, try to be this other person, but I always do it one step at a time. So maybe, I want a bit more of a bad boy attitude, so maybe I'm going to wear snakeskin boots. So I get snakeskin boots, but I'm not going to wear snakeskin boots and go all in one day, get 10 tattoos and do all this shit, because then I'm going to be incongruent with it, right? I'm going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to go out in the bar and feel like this isn't me. This isn't who I am. I'm wearing a costume. But I do little things at a time until I sort of associate with those things. Have you guys ever realized or ever have this where, this used to happen to me in school all the time. I was always sort of very, I always think about what other people thought of me a lot. I was always inside my head a lot. And so whenever I wore like a new pair of pants that I thought were like cool, but I wasn't necessarily sure if people would think they were cool or not, I always feel kind of apprehensive going to school and stuff, feeling like, oh man, these pants, I don't know if people are going to like these pants or not, thinking that everyone in the whole school was like, oh, Derek got new pants, like as if like that's something they think about. But I always found that if I had a really weird pair of pants, but I've worn them a shitload of times, then obviously the feeling isn't there anymore. And I have some weird clothing and stuff, as long as like you take it one piece at a time, you can sort of become that person with fashion and stuff anyway. Yeah, so it's like one step at a time type thing. You have to sort of slowly become this person, and you just take little steps at a time. I always say to students when we have seminars, the smallest thing you'll ever get from this is learning how to talk to women. That's the smallest thing. It's a big thing. I mean, it's why you guys are here, right? But that's the smallest thing. Like I said earlier, when you learn what it means to get good at talking with women, you learn what it means to get good at anything. And like I said, it's dealing with fear, dealing with this fear that we have inside ourselves, dealing with that voice in our head that tells us not to do things. You have to deal with that. And that's the greatest thing you'll ever learn. Like I said, the greatest thing you'll ever learn is learning how to be a man, learning how to be all those things that you always thought you would be someday, or the person you want to be, and actively always going through those experiences that will make you more like that person, right? It starts this weekend. It starts tonight. When you guys are out tonight, you have to start being this guy, right? Make these decisions. Don't just do it for yourself. Do it for your fucking line, your heritage, right? Do it for all the children that you'll have and their children and their children and their children. There's a reason why you guys are all alive and here today. It's because all your fathers and their fathers all knew enough to fuck a girl, right? And that's the greatest thing you'll ever learn. Like I said, this has the smallest thing you'll get from this is competence with women. You learn how to be attractive in every way. And you'll find that if you can do this, if you can get good at talking to girls, you can do anything. Seriously, you can do fucking anything. Anything you want. It's all dealing with all those things that come in the way between what you want and how to get there, the steps along that path. And it's hard, but that's life, right? Life is fucking hard. And it's the reason why you guys are all here, I think, is because you've told yourself, fuck this. I'm scared, I'm scared of talking to girls. I'm not good at it, and I'm pissed off, and I'm mad, and I want to get good at this. And, these guys look like they know what they're doing, so maybe I'll come to this seminar. But that's small potatoes compared to what you can actually learn from all this. Dealing with your fear and dealing with that voice inside your head. For me, it's like, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm very passionate about this stuff. Because for me, like getting good to the girls, it's, at the end of the day, when I look back at everything that I've learned, that literally is the smallest thing. I'm so much more confident. In 4 years, and when I see friends and stuff, I'm from a small town in Eastern Canada. When I go back home, they see me and they're like, there's something about you, like there's a fundamental change happen in your life. And it's not just because, I'm good with girls or whatever. I'm just a more confident guy. I literally believe there's nothing that I can't do if I want to do it. It's just a matter for me, it's a matter of wanting to do it or, dealing with laziness or whatever. But anything that I want, I can have. And everything that I've actually gone after, I've gotten for the most part. And like I said, it's all the same thing. It's all just dealing with that fear and that sort of, that voice inside your head that says, don't do that. You may get hurt. You may get, fuck it, get hurt. Who cares, right? All those things that happen to you along that path all make you stronger anyway. They make you a better person, and they make you more close to the person that you want to be. So for tonight, what I want you guys to think about is every time you get that feeling, like I actually think, I learned recently that there's this complex actually where people that are scared of things, they actually actively go and try to do those things because fear makes them really mad. And it's kind of the same way now. I wasn't always like this, but I've gotten like this since I've started doing this sort of stuff, where when I get scared of something, it really, really upsets me, and it makes me really mad, because I know that I'm so good at dealing with fear, because that's my job, essentially, that whenever something that happens to me that scares me, I'll actively try to put myself in a position where I can prove to myself that I'm not scared of that. And I will, and I'll do it every time. even in insane scenarios, just because I want to prove to myself that I can be that person that I think that I am. Because I am that person. We are who we think we are, right? And it's a matter of putting yourself in enough situations to prove that to yourself. You guys are all going to do this weekend, I hope. But you're all in the start of a journey, and you're all going to get there at some point. But what you guys do from the next while after this is going to define if you become that person or not. And I really hope you do. The best part about my job is seeing guys months later, and they come up to me and they say, dude, I'm a fucking different guy, man. Like, fuck the girls, man. This is sort of everything in my life now I see with a new perspective. And that's the best feeling of my job, because that's what I feel like I'm teaching. I don't really think about myself as teaching guys how to pick up girls. I see myself as teaching guys how to be men, right? Because that's what we are, and that's what we should be. So, like I said, keep these things in mind. When you get that fear, when you get that feeling inside, you fight it, and prove to yourself that you're the person that you see yourself as, that you want to be. And start becoming that guy, starting fucking right now, right? Is there any questions? Yeah, right here.
Yeah, it's really interesting, that idea of stepping outside of the role, which is like a customer and serving a real interaction.
A real interaction? Like I said, for the most part, all those people, all they see all day and all they hear all day is the exact same thing over and over and over again. So in order to have a real conversation, you just don't do that, right? Like I said, it can be something as simple as talking about the weather or making an effort to communicate any sort of personality you have. Get to know their personality. What I usually think about when I do this sort of things is I think I want to figure out who this person is. The things they're giving me, like, oh, that'll be $10.43 or whatever, that's not them. That's what they're trained to say, and it's what they're trained to do as their job. But I want to see who they are. So I'm always trying to like elicit a real response out of them. I'll say things, and I'll keep doing it until they give me that. And so that's sort of what I do. I mean, I could give you examples and stuff, but literally it comes down to, it's basically small talk. I talk about subtext when I talk about body language and stuff, and a lot of it is that. Having that look in your eye that what you're saying isn't really what you're meaning. You're saying something else. And that has, there's a big part of it that's that. But for the most part, it's just basically not being like the last 50 people that just walked in there. And being a real person. And that's all it is. It can be, like I said, it can be something as simple as the weather, or local things that are happening, or a funny thing that just happened to you. It doesn't matter. As long as you come across as a real person, you're probably going to make their day. Anyone else, any other questions? Yeah.
How do you make sure that you're being congruent? I feel that, I've changed so much from what I was, and now I feel my hat.
It is. Congruence, you know what congruence is? Congruence is you wanting to be a certain way, and then your head your brain telling yourself, this isn't who you are. You're being a charlatan. This isn't who you are. And it's that sort of that struggle, that fight that goes on in your head that makes you incongruent. That seed of doubt that gets planted, that comes across in your tone, your body language, everything about you that people pick up on. He's not being totally himself here. And the way to do that, like I said, it's one step at a time. You can't all of a sudden one day, poof, I'm a fucking Pee-wee, right? It doesn't work like that. You have to earn that. And the way you earn it is by exposure therapy, is what we call it. Putting yourself in enough situations that you convince yourself of that truth. So maybe your truth that you want to learn is, I'm good at talking to girls. So you have to put yourself in enough situations that prove that to yourself, that you can believe that. And then once you believe it, it becomes congruent. But it's all about beliefs, is what it comes down to. And I'll actually manipulate myself into doing this sorts of thing. I always tell guys that I don't think many people can, I don't know if everyone can do this, but having the ability to believe your own bullshit is a really good quality to have if you want to learn this stuff, because I'll always frame every interaction that I just went through, even if it's terrible, as really good. And the truth is, it's actually, that's accurate, because you learn a lot more from bad sets than you do from good sets, right? You learn a hell of a lot more from if a girl blows you off than if she just sleeps with you right away. You don't really learn anything from that other than, she was horny. So it's slowly earned. I've gotten to the person that I am from years and years and years of going out and trying to get these experiences that will prove to myself that I am the person that I think I am. And it's a hard road, but you have to take it, because what's the alternative, right? Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I don't necessarily have a routine in the back of my head that I always say for girls, like for who I am or whatever, but I kind of do. I mean, it depends sort of the conversation and what comes up. I'll always talk about how I come from a small town, how I come from a place where people are very, very polite, and you can walk down the street and just talk to anyone, and they'll invite you to dinner and stuff like that. Like that's a part of who I am. But in terms of like having an actual routine set aside of how I'm trying to communicate all these attractive things and this routine and all these, I don't really do that. But I have my story of who I am, which is true, and I have things that I feel define who I am, experiences that have happened to me. Sometimes they're bad, but they define who I am, and I think they make me a more real person, a more well-rounded person. But no, I don't really have a set routine. They mostly come out. A lot of this stuff doesn't come out when you first, maybe even the first night you talk to a girl. A lot of these things are sort of peppered in there as she gets to learn who you are. You become a more real person, a more interesting person based on who you are and the things you have around you and the stories you have to tell that maybe only come out, when she inquires about them or when something comes up that would elicit that. But there's nothing there that no girl really knows who I am 100% the first time I meet them. It takes months, years sometimes. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
When you throw yourself into one of those situations that you know you're afraid of, what does that say to you?
I fight it. Like I'll literally, like even to this day, all the instructors, we all still got approach anxiety. We still get it, but we know what it is, and we know that it's only there because of biological reasons, basically. And I know how to get rid of it, and so I know what to do. So I don't really treat it that seriously, but I get a lot of pleasure out of proving to myself that I'm capable of all the things that I think I'm capable of. And I have a big ego. I have like super high expectations of myself. Maybe almost, it may not even be a good thing. But because I have so high expectations, like I said, I get really upset when I don't live up to those. And there's that voice inside my head says, you're an idiot. What are you doing? Like go and do this right now. Otherwise, it's like I'm in control here. Fucking do it. And I tell myself that, and it's like, well, I get mad at myself sometimes, and I'll just go and do it. Because I know as soon as I go and do it, it's never as bad as I think it is. It's never as hard as you think it is. And the other thing is that really the reason why we get those feelings is because we're thinking of the negative outcomes, or we're thinking of everything that might go wrong. And that's where that anxiety comes from. Like, oh, fuck. But then you realize when you get into it that shit hardly ever happens. The stuff that goes wrong hardly ever happens. And even when it does, you're so busy thinking about how to deal with it that you don't even get those feelings that you would think you would have anyway. That situation you think would happen doesn't even normally happen because your brain is so focused on what you should do next that it doesn't even have time to think about being scared or of what not to say. So I realize that and I know that. So whenever those situations come up, I just throw myself into them. Like fuck it, I'm gonna do it. Even if it does fuck up, at least I tried and I'll learn something. And the next time it happens, I'll know what to do. At least a little bit better than I do this time if things go wrong. So yeah. That's kind of how I look at it. It's always a learning process. I never expect when I go into something very scary to be able to ace it first try. I usually don't. That's usually the way it works. But I learn enough that the next time I'm going to be sure that I never make any of the same mistakes. That's how I got good at talking to girls. When I got with Love Systems, I'd already gone out 4 nights a week for almost a year, or actually almost over a year. This is why I always say to students, any situation that comes up or that you've been in the past, I've been through it too. I've gotten kicked out of so many bars and slapped across the face, and I've done all the wrong things that I know what the right thing is now. And that's how I learned. I had to learn the hard way. I didn't have all this advice that you guys are getting, and I had to learn by failing over and over and over and over again. I had to fail until I realized that you fail so much after a while, you can't fail anymore because you've done everything bad. So the only thing that's left is the right thing. So that's kind of how I learned. But I don't recommend that way of learning. It's tough, but it's got me where I am now, which I think is good for me and good for you guys as well. Because when I speak from experience, or when I speak, it comes from experience. I literally have done every wrong thing in that situation to know what the right thing is. So I think just go ahead. Bye. Right. That's kind of like a comfort question. And the thing is, when you get into comfort and stuff, you don't have to be goofy and and making fun of her and being cocky and funny and all that sort of thing. You can be a real person. I'll get into a real conversation with the girl on every date that I go in. I'm always going to be, in order to attract her, I'll always play that sort of character of like, I'm not taking this shit too seriously. But as soon as I get into a conversation about real shit, I'll be real with her. You have to turn that off at some point. At some point, you have to be a real person. Because, and this used to happen to me a lot, this is a problem I used to have where I was really good at attracting girls, and then you get to know me, and the breaking point was when a girl actually told me. She said, Derek, just be real. Can you just be real with me? And she actually said that to me. She's like, you never take anything seriously, and you're always joking, but like, can you just be real for a sec? And I was like, oh my God, shit, I never realized that. But you have to be a real person. People are attracted to people that are sort of, happy-go-lucky and confident and cocky and shit like that. They won't fall in love with that person, though. They'll just be attracted to them. They fall in love with who you really are. I mean, that's how you keep girls. That's how you get them. A lot of guys have this problem where they learn all this stuff and they have all these games and lines they use, and they get really good at attracting women, and they probably get a lot of one-night stands too. But they always have problems keeping a girl, and the reason why is because they haven't learned how to just be themselves. You can talk about anything. Like, we all have these things that some of us are embarrassed about, right? Like, I'm really into video games. Like, not even new ones, like old ones, like Sega Genesis and like Super Nintendo and shit, right? Like, I'm really into old video games. And when girls walk into my room, I have this huge amount of all these old video games, like Sega CD and like 32X and all these things. And it's really geeky. But when girls come in, because they usually ask me about it, and they're like, well, oh, you're a bit of a gamer, eh? And I'm like, yeah. And the way that I say to them is I say, you know what, it's funny, like when I was a kid, I always wanted these systems, and my parents are really poor. I come from a poor family, and I'd always wish on Christmas, like I really hoped that I'd open my present and it would be like a Sega CD, and it never was because I never got it because my parents couldn't afford it. And I kind of knew that when I was a kid, but I always made that promise to myself when I was a kid that when I have enough money, I'll get them. I'll have them. One day I'll have them. When I'm an adult and I can afford them, I'll have them. And so whenever I see them now, that little kid inside me on Christmas Day sort of has a big smile on his face. I don't even play them. I just have them there because it's sort of like, But like you can make anything that is geeky as it is about yourself sound really awesome, Or as long as you're passionate about it. Future, another instructor, he's really into comics, right? Not something you'd think would be really attractive to a girl. But the way that he describes it about his love of comics and what it means to him, they fucking love it. And it's because he's showing passion. He's showing real emotions. He's showing who he really is. And that's what you need to do. As embarrassing as the things you think you're into are, as long as you have passions about them, then that's fine. That's okay. Women love that shit. It's just a matter of how you sort of, communicate those passions. All right, guys, so I think that's it. Announcements? Okay, so Humberto has some announcements. Thank you, guys.